Welcome to Laugh and Learn with Vern. I'm your host, Eric Vernston. Thank you so much for tuning in, watching, or listening wherever you are. I have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Deanna Kobe. Deanna is a comedian. She's been actively a comedian for 4 years, and she is the host of Comedians Exposed. It's a podcast that you can find on anywhere podcasts are, I believe. She's been doing that since August 2020, where she interviews comedians about their vulnerabilities and has some hilarious stories, both her as her guest. Before I welcome her to the show, just a quick disclaimer: this podcast is not sponsored by or the official or unofficial positions of the United States military, the U.S. Army, or the Department of Defense. And I bet that is an intro Deanna has not heard before. Please welcome to the stage, Deanna Kobe.
Oh my gosh, hello, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And that is definitely a little bit scary. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to get arrested or something? What do you know?
I'm in the United States Army. I'm in the Army National Guard, but I just do that because I need to. It's kind of a CYA. I don't think they really care. I don't usually talk about the military. I don't usually talk about like weird kind of things that they'd be like, what the heck? But I do try to. Yeah. So don't worry. The FBI is not at your door. They'd be at mine first.
I want to see what my file looks like. I'm like, ooh, this is exciting.
I want to see what mine looks like.
Well, good for you. That's wonderful that you are in the military and you serve. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. And I started my podcast around the same time you started yours during the pandemic. We're about a couple months apart. So I guess we're podcast Irish twins.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was a good time to start a podcast. What motivated you to start yours?
Oh, you're interviewing me, huh?
I just want to know. I'm curious. This is like, I know you're going to ask me, but I'm curious because,
yeah. Why? Why do this? Why? Yeah. Why subject ourselves to this?
No, I'm very uncomfortable right now.
I was thinking that it would be a great way to let people tell their stories, and that's how I initially started. Was have anyone on that I was interested in. Like I had my barber, I had a friend of mine who's got this great Instagram following. She does vintage everything, and I just thought it would be kind of a unique, just a fun way to do it. And selfishly, ego wise, I'm like, oh, I'm pretty funny. Like I've done Second City and I'm so cool and I'll start a podcast. And then there's this other guy, his name's Naval Ravikant. Have you heard of Naval?
Mm-mm.
He's at Naval on Twitter, Naval. And he did this long tweet thread about 3 years ago. So like how to build wealth in something or other. And one of the things he said is that you want to get the robots in this digital age working for you, and you got to be able to take chances, put yourself out there, write a blog, start a podcast, do all the stuff. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I should do that. So I spent months researching and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And then it evolved into, now I'm kind of more like, I want to have interesting people on. So it doesn't have to be someone I know. Ideally, it's easier rapport because we have like a story together about what, our time on our roast battle. I just think it's fascinating to talk to people that just have interesting stuff to say. And I feel like every episode I learn something.
Oh, wonderful.
What about you?
It's kind of similar, yeah, I love people. They're, especially with what we're going through, it's a unique time in history. So, I like history. It was kind of fun to kind of like, let's kind of commemorate what's going on. I like journal writing. I'm a big fan of journal writing. So I felt like this was like another form of journaling, but in a wider way of, having the ability to share it with so many people. And then you're bringing other people in. So it's nice. And I learn a lot from other comedians. Like I get really specific, tangible practices that I've been kind of like, oh, okay, this is what, because you're always working on your comedy, always tweaking it, always evolving. So it's really wonderful to sit down with comics, talk to them and ask them questions about like things that I'm like, well, yeah, especially like when you know them and you've seen them perform, everybody has something about them that you love.
Yeah.
in their ability to perform. And it's like, oh my God, I love how you do this. Like, let me pick your brain about it, So
what are some things that you've learned that, like, right off the top of your head, like what's one or two things that you've learned from a guest that you think have directly impacted you or benefited you?
oh, definitely. Like one thing when I getting called up to stage, I don't wait until I'm on the stage anymore. Like as soon as I'm walking, I start engaging. And someone shared that, oh, they saw another comic do that. So I was like, oh, I love that. So now it's like, as soon as my name is called, I immediately am like, all right, I'm like, that's when my, performance is starting. So it's like, at that point, I feel like I can try to like, and that to me was very practical. Then it's like, oh, and now when you like reflect back on your sets, you can hear people kind of already like giggling based on like how what I'm doing before. So it's like, okay, we're already building that what I need. So that was helpful as one example.
Let's give me one more.
Another example, let me think of, like, I'm trying to think of like some of my ones that I've like utilized like really specifically. Slowing down, obviously. That's something I tend to work on. So like comics, like just coming up with the idea of being comfortable to sit in the silence when you're on stage. And that's hard. I feel like,
Yeah.
But once you have that mastered, you know what I mean? Because you can really like do a lot with a long pause and, not step on the laughs. And then you can add on to a joke, by using your face or another word, or. So it's just like things like that. And it's like, okay, let me actively try it. So what I'll do is like, I'll pick a joke, and that'll, focus on, but these really tangible tasks that help me, like I said, and I've loved that. I definitely feel I've gotten better with, my comedy, like by being able to utilize what people share with me.
You have this, it's an interesting mindset you kind of described of this learning, and you A/B test. Has anyone ever told you that?
No.
Yeah, you do. Where do you think that comes from?
So I A/B test?
Yeah, you test things out. You just described you'll learn something, and then
Yeah.
you'll kind of test it out and see if it works or doesn't work, or how you can improve it for your show.
Yeah.
Have you been like that in other aspects of your life prior to this?
Oh,
Where
yeah,
do you think that comes
definitely.
from?
I need to know shit on my own. Like, it's like I hear something, but it's like, I don't believe you. Like, I think this is when, okay, and this is going to be maybe controversial what I'm going to say, and I don't want to bring him up, but the one thing I really had in common with Trump was how almost he was critical of the media. And like, again, I always kind of felt like growing up, like reading the news, like I was a political science major. So reading, things, be like, okay, is this really how it is? So for me, it was like, then that sparked into like, oh no, I have to travel. And I'm like, I need to go to these places and see if this shit you're telling me, can I curse? I'm so sorry. You said a bad word. Part of your family. So if this stuff that you're telling me is real, so I don't know. And it's like, then it's just kind of like, so that's like one area, but because that's also just a very inquisitive place, but also, that's just kind of how I do things. Like I like to try stuff out and be like, okay, like it's a fun way. It's exploration, it's a way to kind of play, engage with the world. I'm not a type of person that I like things to be different. I like change. I like, different experiences. So, being able to do that and having these tips, you're like, okay, let me see how my set's going to go this time. And it could be a complete train wreck or it can be completely wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's a good memory.
Well, you're in a safe spot. I actually I'm controversial in my own right, because I've said I used to hate President Trump and I was totally against him. And then in 2018, I actually was like, actually, I like some of the stuff he's doing. And I received a lot of backlash from friends. And I've kind of learned to put the person aside, because I think there's just so much fire. And also you have something else in common with him. You're in New York City.
Yeah. I love the thumbs up too. Love the thumbs up. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's such a great greeting.
It's such a weird, like, he's so controversial that it seems so to me, it's so interesting that I think now things are a little more calm because he's been out of there for a little bit, but you couldn't really bring him up without people just getting like so so riled up.
Yes.
And like for me, one of the biggest things I look at his legacy is I don't trust the news at all anymore. I'm out. I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, I look at that and then I look at the Babylon Bee and I'm like, they might actually, I don't know who's actually telling more of the truth here, because some of the B stuff is like so outrageous. And then like a year and a half later, it's like it comes true. And it's so interesting to me that like, and I was more mad. Like I was mad when I used to look at CNN every day. I was like, oh, let me get my news from CNN. Like I trust them. I would read them every day for years. I'm talking years. And then once I realized that I was just getting fed a lot of BS and slanted BS, I was pissed. I was like, I was lied to and deceived for so long. And then on top of that, no accountability. Like I don't see apologies. I don't see them ever saying like, yeah, we made this. And I'm not just talking about him. I'm like, generally speaking, I just thought things were like great and everything was like perfect. And maybe things are pretty good. I mean, we live in America, but I just feel so lied to that I'm like offended still. I'm still angry about it, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm still angry about it. And I don't even care that I don't care who it was that brought it up. And it's like, but you bring him up and people are just like, oh, it's like, well, if he had the same media coverage as other people, you might not want to have a pitchfork coming after me right now. I'm just saying. I
think there's a lot going on at play. I think Trump, I think he's a master of his game, and being polarizing works for him. It always has, so he feeds off of that. Secondly, you look at our media, and again, I hope everyone recognizes the hyperbole in me saying I hate the media. Like
Me too.
You know what I mean? It's like it's a necessary evil, but you look at how we have it in our country, it's based in capitalist ideas, which is rooted in money making. So that's fine, because if you look at alternatives, like Mexico, where the media was controlled by the government, like that has flaws. Like it's like you have to look at as much information as possible, but then also do what you can actively, if you have that capacity, to find out your own level of what is the reality. And it's like, again, news have a responsibility to give us the most extreme of what is going on. And you have to also be having, I think, the ability to synthesize who's giving you the information, what's their stake in the game. It's not something that you can just take at face value. So I do believe there's a lot of, especially people who are super hyper triggered by Trump, and like, definitely I got triggered by him, but I also had to recognize, like, why am I getting so triggered by this person? Because it's like what he's doing is not anything that it wasn't brand new. He was just like, he was really calling to light, I feel like, what has been for so long, whereas a lot of other people were just kind of like, oh, let's keep our blinders up. And he was like willing to engage in the shit, because again, it worked for him as being, and Trump jokes are hilarious. I love doing Trump impressions. So it was like, that shit was so much fun, like, I'm sorry, people, I don't care how you feel, I'm gonna do this shit because this is hilarious for me.
What kind of responses would you get?
I had like pretty neutral jokes about him. Like I would impersonate him, but I never got super political. Like I always like danced on the edge. Like the one joke that I had was like, just me impersonating him, like asking, for ketchup. You know what I mean? Because it's like,
could you do it now? Do you remember it?
I don't know. I haven't done it in a while. Like, I gotta get my face right. Eric, I haven't done my Trump, but I need some ketchup.
That's hilarious. I've never seen anyone do it like that. Does your face hurt after doing that? Like it looks like it, like really. How long did it take you to get that down?
It's so funny. I've been impersonating Trump for years. One of my very close friends who's from the Midwest, when she came out to visit, I took her to Atlantic City, and this was like years ago. This was like I don't know, 2010 or whatever. And she was fascinated by like Trump, all the casino shit down there. And like, we had this running joke, the Von Trumps, and we would, impersonate him with her because he's, again, just such a like ridiculous caricature.
Yes.
So it was something that was like, just like already like in my fun bag.
That's an inch. So I like that you did it. I'm trying to think of the, do you know who Jerry Corley is?
I think I do recognize that name. Yeah, I would have to, his face is not popping up, but.
I think he calls himself the joke doctor, but I bought his book, or my friend bought his book, and we like split the cost a couple years ago. And he's got like these principles, like formulaic principles for writing jokes. And one of them is, I think you just kind of nailed it, where it's like there's a couple things that you did there. It's like you do an impression, but it's funnier that you don't do politics. Right. It's like Trump trying to pick up like his dry cleaning. Like, this is the most important suit I've ever had. This is a beautiful suit. This is a $5,000 suit. And you're charging me $399 for dry cleaning. I mean, I could go down the street and get this is a horrible deal. Like, something like that, where you put someone who's so ridiculous and over the top into a situation where it's like, it's about ketchup. Like that's really good. You don't do that anymore? You don't do that bit anymore?
No, I did do during the pandemic, because when we went into lockdown, I still wanted to kind of itch the comedy, bug or whatever. And I did a video, which was super fun, because you remember the news that came out with him calling A-Rod for Corona advice? I thought that, my God. I was like, what the hell? Again, the news like so crazy, but I found like this video of A-Rod, and I just did like a little, and it was super fun to write. It was like a real short sketch. So that was like the last time, but I have not done Trump on stage at all, because I've been trying to do Biden stuff now. I'm trying to be an equal opportunist.
Sure.
And he's also equally ridiculous with his teeth and his aviators. He's got those chucks. So I feel like he'd be fun too, but.
Do you have a Biden impression?
I'm working on that. That's what I'm working on, So like I said, I do have, I'm practicing the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, he does. He's got, and then I have my glasses, the aviators.
You got aviators?
Yeah.
Have you seen Dana Carvey's impression?
No, I'll Google it. I love Deanna Kobe, does excellent impressions.
It's really funny. I can't do that because of my military position. I can't literally like do anything. Like it's a fine line, because he's technically like my boss's boss's boss. I think I did the math one time. He's like 8 layers up from me, my boss.
Okay.
Something like that. Or it's probably actually more. If I say 1, 2, 3, probably 4, 5, 6. So yeah, 7 or 8, something like that. My boss is probably listening to this being like, it's 6. No, my boss is fantastic. But so I can't like mock him. I can't mock Congress. I think I can do individual senators or representatives, but I'm kind of like, I'm not sure.
Oh.
Not mocking Congress for me has been like so hard, because I just like, it's approval ratings like 10%. I'm like, oh, it's just like red meat.
Do goofy shit too. Like, it's like, how are you dangling this stupidity right in front of my face and I can't make a joke about it? That would be horrible. Oh my God, how cruel. What a cruel world for you.
I think that's for all the, fortunate things in my life, I think that's God kind of going like, yeah, you know what? You've had a very wonderful existence, but this one thing you really want to do, you got to wait at least 6 years to do it.
Oh my God. That could be like in the remake of Alanis Morissette's Ironic. You're a comedian and you just want to make jokes of Congress.
You've got jokes about Congress, but you're in the army.
Isn't it ironic?
Isn't it ironic? That would be fun for her to do. That would actually be an interesting bit, doing like Ironic in 2021. It's like, you bought 1,000 masks, but then.
Oh, but I thought that the one day when I was walking somewhere, I had to go to an acupuncture appointment, and I walked almost all the way there. It's like a mile away. It's not like terribly far, but then I was almost at the building and I was like, I don't have my mask. And I was like looking around everywhere. There was just scattered masks on the ground. And I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah. The irony of like, you have probably a ton at home. You probably have them in your jackets and your pants pockets, and it's everything that they're right there. and you don't have them on you, but they're on the street and you're like, well, I'm not going to put that on. And then they're like in the building you want to go in. They're right there next to the window.
There.
Yeah, but you can't go inside without a mask. You just want to like
hanging on the window like a crazy person, like, call the police, please.
Yeah. Oh, that would be, that'll be an interesting bit. What other, so do you do more? Now I'm listening to podcasts. Obviously we did a little bit of a roast battle yourself. Do you look at yourself more as a stand-up comedian, an impressionist? Like, how do you view your comedy?
I stand-up comedian. Yeah, I think that is, where I think what I enjoy the most is like just writing and just getting on the microphone and doing it. Like impressions are fun, but it's not something I do a lot of, it's like a random sprinkling as a treat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your process for writing?
Just things that I try to do a lot of, just drawing from my life and what is real for me. Things that are funny, like weird stuff that happens to me. Like, I don't know, like I was walking in the park the one day and like a bird flew into my head 3 times, and it was like, okay, like what the, like, why does that, how is this happening that and the third time was like, I literally changed my path and walked on the street and the thing came after me. So I was like, whoa, it's like, this bird's trying to throw hands. I don't know what's going on. So I don't know. Just stuff like that, things that are going on in the world, a lot of this stupidity that I see that I'm like, this is dumb. You people are dumb. Yeah. You're worried about this. I'm going to make fun of you. I have a really dark sense of humor. So.
Do you write with others? Do you write by yourself? Like what does it look like when you let's say, so the bird flies in your head because you clearly didn't walk far away from its nest. I've had that happen to me too. Like the dive-bys.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you were like threatening.
It literally, no, I thought at first I was getting punked. You know how they have those TikTok challenges? I thought a kid slapped me in the head and ran away. Because I was like, what the, because it was hard, I wouldn't have expected it to be like.
Yeah, they come hard to the paint. They don't mess around. They're like,
no.
Patrick Ewing in the mid 90s for the Knicks. Like they're going to try to dunk on you.
Oh, my friend, the day before, my friend and I had just had a conversation about how a hummingbird came really close to her face. And we're like, oh my God, that's so magical. And then it's like the next day I get hit in the head with a bird. And then we find out hummingbirds can fly 60 miles an hour with they're deadly.
Wait, how many?
60 miles per hour.
Wow, did not know that.
That's and then you think about, I'm like, we're gonna get killed by the birds. They're rising against us.
Right through your head. Yeah, just in your eye and then out, and you're just like,
you're just done.
You're just done. You're literally done. Yeah.
Anything, this little beautiful, delicate thing is a death machine. Maybe they are. Maybe the squirrels really are government drones spying on us, and the birds are designed. Right? Conspiracy theories. Why not?
Is that an actual one, or
I don't know. It might be. I'm sure if we Google it, it probably is.
I read this weird article. So I used to work with this guy. I think he's actually in New York now. He's a really funny dude. And he would point out these like random articles online. And what was the one? It was about how squirrels used to be pets. Did you know this? They used to be pets in up until like 1910 or 1920. Like people would have pet squirrels in their house and they domesticated squirrels. It was like a huge thing. And then the government killed them all and replaced them with robots, probably, 10, 15 years. I don't know. What is a good, what's one of your favorite conspiracy theories?
I wish I understood the one fully about the lizard people and the 5G, because that seems pretty epic. I don't, honestly, I feel like with conspiracy theories, like anyone, it depends on who's talking to me about what kind of theory. Like I personally, like, again, I'll engage because I think it's silly, but it's like, if you don't give me something that I can read of substance, like, I don't know. And the moon landing was fake. Like, okay, like, why would you now Jeff Bezos was going to the moon. Do we still think it's fake, or the Holocaust wasn't real? Like,
that's a real, you have to be really, really out there for the Holocaust one, because there's just, it's just overwhelming physical evidence.
I know
people that were like, I literally was in a concentration camp. Like there's so many levels of denial of that one. It's almost, it's almost like I don't know. It's like maybe like a cult mentality. Like, how do you, like, I don't understand how you get from like, oh, I was raised, I went to school, maybe you did some other education after high school. And then at some point, like 30 years later, you're just like, I've been doing some thinking, and Holocaust, not real. Like, where did, you know what I mean? Like, how is that even like a thing?
I think especially you look at how history is taught, how much people, like, again, accessibility, like most people don't go to college, like it's not overwhelming in our culture for people to become college graduates. So you think at the high school level, how much exposure people have, people live in micro segregated communities. So how many people you're around that are really Jewish? And especially, I don't think, it is shocking, but is it shocking? Like, thinking about, for example, like you're a prosecutor and like this whole idea of rape victims, like if you're raped, it's not like, I could be like, hey, I was raped. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, like with people saying, hey, I was in the Holocaust. Like, no, you weren't. Like, we very much do that, so it's kind of like, it's, to me, not that it's unfathomable. No, it seems shocking, but it's not, because again, looking at people and how we live and like how, the average reading level in America is 6th grade. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. You grow up somewhere where maybe it's not really taught, or maybe you have some family that's very
you had like
anti-Semitic.
Grampy was a little bit, with dropping some words he shouldn't. And you're like, oh, Grampy, folksy racism. Huh. I can't wait to grow up and be a folksy racist too.
Yeah, you're right. Why, after the last couple of years, why should anything really be? Why should we question that people will believe anything? Like, how about just all the debates over COVID? It's like every day, it just seems like it's exhausting. It's like 2 years later, I still have, I've always thought, okay, so I did get vaccinated. I thought it made sense for me at the time. I wasn't thinking like I'm making a political statement. I was like, I don't know. It seems like this thing could be really bad. I don't really want to get it. I don't know,
Yeah.
But then it's like everything just turns so political. Like, it's crazy. Like vaccinations, like you either get it or you don't. I don't know what your deal is, but like, I don't know why we have to talk about it 24/7.
I don't know. That was, again, I think one of my favorite jokes that I couldn't make work was,
let's workshop this.
Okay. So I have this joke and I like it about how I ran into a friend from high school and we got in an argument about the COVID-19 vaccine and, whether or not we were going to get it or not. And I was like, oh, and I was like, when we were done arguing, I asked him if he kept in touch with the kid we went to school with that had polio. And it does not work because I think people, like, a lot of times I'm in like crowds like that are young kids that are 21 and they look at me and they're like, oh, well, yeah, she lived when there was polio. Like, that's common, so
I
don't know, I can't seem to make it work, but like for me, like I said, that's a joke I enjoy, but I feel like I don't like use it often because, and then plus COVID, the whole vaccine, because people do, but get so damn butthurt. And it's like, for me, like, it was not even a question. Like, I like to travel, so it's like certain places of the world you want to go. They're like, all right, you need this shot, you need this shot, you need this, you need this. And you're like, all right, I'm doing whatever I need to get there, and I didn't even like bat an eyelash.
Yeah.
So it was like, as soon as, and I remember thinking, as soon as we went into lockdown, everybody was like, when's the vaccine coming? And I was reading, I'm like, it could take 10 years, And then we got it and everyone's like, I'm not taking that. It's like all the shit you put in your body. Go to McDonald's again. Go eat your Big Mac, you idiot.
Yeah.
Don't get vaccinated.
Yeah. I'm someone who watches everything I put in my body, but I eat fast food 3 or 4 days a week and I buy processed food. I was what is it? There's something crazy with, and I need to stop doing this, but so I eat a lot of microwave meals. I live by myself. I eventually, move in with my girlfriend and our baby. I'm sure I'll have to turn into a real adult, but for now, I just eat microwave stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care. There's something about, what was it? There's some, like, if you microwave plastic, it's like not good for you. And there's like all this kind of weird junk and it can be bad for like the male reproductive system.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think it was, so I don't listen to Rogan's 4-hour podcast. I listen to like the 5 or 10 minute, you ever seen Jerry clips?
Mm-mm.
They have them on YouTube. So I'll listen to one every once in a while. And so I'm like sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really terrible. And then I'm like, I don't know, but this meal is $2.99 and it takes 5 minutes and it's kind of tasty. So maybe I'll just, I don't know. I'm going to eat it anyways. And maybe I'll deal with this later.
I think too, again, like yeah, exactly. It's like everything that we expose, like our modern world is anything that we're around is gonna kill us. And that's the that's the life we're living. Why are we prolonging this? Like, it's like, okay, you're born, you're gonna die. And you think about human life expectancy, like places like Afghanistan, right? It's like what, 52 or something like that, it's so it's like, okay. Like, okay, I'm gonna be here. And it's like we can debate these things, but it's like where we're at because of all of these advancements, the convenience. Like, you don't have to go down and hunt a squirrel and cook it up and eat it. You could pop it and roll the dice with a little bit of plastic poisoning. Yeah, right. You might have gotten bit by the squirrel and gotten blinded and scratched your face off. That's actually how my grandfather went bald, was because a squirrel landed on his head.
Really?
No, that's not true.
They took
but I always thought that as a kid. I always thought that's what happened when you went bald. Vicious squirrel attack.
Vicious squirrel attack. Oh, and don't forget the swarm of hummingbirds that apparently is just right around the corner.
I think I should switch to conspiracy podcast. I think I really.
It's fun. What was the other one you said? The moon landing. That one cracks me up too, because it's like it just requires so much. It was this tweet the other day, and it was like, whether you believe in God or not, you either have faith that God exists, or you really have to have faith that everything ever.
Yes.
And that God doesn't exist. And I never thought about it like that. Like, I believe in God, but sometimes I'm like, I just get a little, like, I question things. I'm like,
right.
I don't know. Like, I do believe in God and I have faith. Right. Like, what if you die and nothing happens? That's kind of sad.
Oh, and I have a whole bit about this, because that's like, again, first, my favorite argument, right? I think it's Thomas Aquinas, God is that which nothing greater is possible. So you can't disprove, right, the impossible. Yeah. So write that alone. But I love it so much because I have a whole bit, because like, my line is, it's like, atheists. I'm like, I wish I had that self-confidence, and I.
Yeah, right.
And like, again, and the whole culmination of the bit is just spending, like, could you imagine your eternity being like your existence? I don't believe in God. And then in eternity, everybody coming up to you, I told you so, Eric, for the rest of your eternity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that shit would,
yeah.
No, thank you. I don't want to roll those dice. Those are terrible odds.
Yeah, you get annoyed like the one time someone said, like, I told you back in 6th grade. Now you're gonna have to deal with that for the eternity. Like, is that really what your play is?
Yep. So I connected to because I used to date a guy. I did the whole bit about, like, he got picked to do the half-court shot for the Knicks.
Nice.
And he won the shot, and he won money. But I was like, I'm like, I told him, he won't make that shot. So then it was like, we had to break up, because I was like, I couldn't hear him. Like, I told you so. It was so annoying.
Wait, did he actually hit the shot?
Yeah. And
so you broke up with him after that?
Yeah.
Just because he was successful?
No, because I told him before, he was like so excited, and I'm like, you're not going to make this shot. It's like you're coming from the half-court line. I'm not very supportive. I love reality.
I'm not really what you would call a supportive significant other. It's just kind of.
No.
Do you think comedians are harder to date than regular people?
Yes.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why are we such a strange breed of people?
I don't know. There's definitely something. I don't know. I don't know if it's our more willingness to engage. Like, I feel like we're willing to take more swings with things, like by doing comedy. Because it is pretty terrifying on many levels, right? I think, isn't public speaking the second greatest fear people say?
No, first.
The first, it is?
Well, hold on. I interrupt you. What was second?
Dying.
No, it's first.
Oh, wow. That's so bizarre. That to me is so strange.
What got you to do it?
So I wanted to release fear, and again, I find it to be a strange thing to be afraid of, because what's the worst thing that will happen is that, you know, people will not like the things that I say. That's the worst in reality, well, maybe not, maybe I'm being, maybe I'm lowballing how bad it could get. So, but I wanted to, because I found it useless. I'm trying to move towards things that help me release fear. So I put myself in situations that I'm nervous or afraid of to kind of work through it, because then space opens up for all this other stuff, which is really fun.
Okay, well, let's go with this. What else do you do to kind of release your fear or conquer anxiousness or anxiety or those doubts?
Traveling alone.
You walk in the streets of New York at night, just like a switchblade, like, try me.
Yeah, exactly.
Try me.
Come here. Yeah, cut you, bitch. Yeah. No, I mean like internationally, going abroad, going on vacation by myself. Like I went to Turkey and like Bulgaria and everything. And it's just like, like I'm on my own, and people, I think a lot of people are, that was scary. It was very scary the first time I went and was like, okay, I'm going to travel by myself. Cause then it's like, you have these doubts. Like, again, traveling for me has always been like something that has been like, that roots me back in like my personal evolution, because I didn't get to be, I didn't get on a plane till I was like 21. And, the first time I went out of the country, and just since then, I've just keep pushing myself in places, and like people like going to Jordan, like, oh, you're going to go there. Why are you going to go there? What are you going to do? And I've just always had these wonderful experiences and encountered these beautiful people. And it's so now become my preferred way to travel. Like, I don't like to travel with people now, because I'm like, you're going to ruin it for me.
You'd be a fantastic significant other. You're not supportive and you only want to travel alone. You should just put that on. If you're single right now, just go on a dating app and just go, I will not support you, and I take vacations by myself.
This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more things that I won't do.
There's so many things that you don't know about me that are really going to upset you.
That make me a horrible girlfriend.
I bet you would get so many people interested in that. Guys would be like, wow, she sounds insane and honest. I'll take the honesty because everyone's a little crazy.
Yeah.
I would have, back in the day, I would have swiped on that. I would have been like, she is so intriguing. This is a dark, dark soul. I kind of want to find out how bad it gets.
Oh my God. Maybe that's what my problem is. Because, now that I've crossed into middle-aged territory, swiping, it's not really swiping. It's more like, drag.
You will drag me. I will. I don't know. I think that I used to do that before I met my girlfriend. What I would do for apps is I would always I did certain things. So I would make sure that, well, one, I only usually use Hinge, because that was the only one I could get good connections on, because I think Bumble was hard for me, because although I am very well spoken, hilarious, super good looking, the 5'9", 5'10" thing, I think, a lot of the ones I'd see where it'd be like, need to be 6 feet taller.
Are you kidding?
Oh yeah, tons of that. So I think
2
Bumble
inches taller than average for a man.
Thank you. I believe this statistic as well. Yeah. But yeah,
ladies
Bumble
are tough. Ladies can be tough. Bumble is okay. Yeah. Which other one?
Hinge was the good one for me, because then I could actually, all I would do is I'd wake up in the morning and I'd try to write jokes for like 5 or 10 minutes, which really is not enough time to get in a rhythm, but I was just like, whatever. And then I would go on the apps and I would just make fun of people. All I would do is just comment and make fun of people. Like if someone had a picture of their dog, I'd be like, something, I'd make comments about the dog. Like, not like you have an ugly dog, but be like, oh, sweet girl with a dog pic, real original. And I would almost routinely get responses on stuff like that, because I think every other guy would be like, oh, this is a cool dog. And I was like, fuck the dog.
Stand out a little bit. I think the apps are good for material for sure.
Do you have any bits on that?
Yeah. So many.
It's like your whole act.
Yeah, my whole act is like, okay, guys, I hear 20 minutes about dating apps. Oh my God.
What is some of the most interesting things you've encountered from, because I've heard the horror, like some horror stories about guys, and because I am one, I can only imagine it's 10 times worse than I actually can imagine.
Some of the horror stories about who's on the dating apps.
Anything,
Oh my God.
messages, the
So many.
photos.
See, dick pics. Again, I have a lot of bits about dick pics now because I do not understand how this has become like, you don't even ask for it. It's like, bam, dick pic in your face. You're like, all right, wow. A lot of married people,
Do they acknowledge it?
Yes.
They're like, I'm married and don't care, or they're
Yeah,
like
like you get,
open
oh, married, I'm
relationship.
not happy. I'm married, I'm in an open relationship. You know what I mean? Like all kinds of stories and stuff like that. It's like, oh my God, gross.
I don't want to get murdered by your significant other.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, thank you. Leave your drama llama over there. But one thing, I mean, maybe this is judgy of me. Something that was always sticks out. A guy messaged me and wanted like to wear my pants. You know, he's like, I think, you know, we would be the same size. Can I wear your pants? I was like, wow, nice to meet you.
So obviously you were intrigued by this. So did he fit or not?
This was before I did comedy, because now that I do comedy, it's so sick. Speaking of how comedians are sick, because anytime I get something weird now on, like if I'm on a dating app at the time, I will engage, or like on social media, like if someone slides into my DMs, I'm like, oh, we're playing because you're gonna be a bit soon, sir. You know, like let me see what I can pull out of you. So yeah. But the pants man at the time, I politely declined him wearing the pants. I said, thank you very much. Good luck on your journey.
Because you know it starts with the pants, and eventually he walks in one night with a knife and goes, I'd like to wear your face.
Oh my God. True.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a slippery slope. Lending
Yeah.
men your pants over the internet.
Will I get murdered? Maybe.
I can't imagine being a woman in 2021. To me would just be so bizarre, because it's like, you know, that like, especially with the pandemic, like I'm sure, I feel like meeting people in general is probably such a roll of the dice. Like you probably have a pretty good filter for, you know, is this person decent or not, but you never really know. And then you add a layer of the internet where it's like, you really almost have no idea. Anyone can be anyone. You don't even know if they're actually a guy. You could be getting catfish. You ever see the show Catfish?
Oh my God. Yeah, of course.
Amazing.
That's
Yeah.
Well, who are the catfishers? Like, who's got that much time on their hands?
Yeah.
You know, like, or, you know, then it's equally said, it's like, are you feeling that terribly about yourself? You know, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, it is scary. I don't personally like, again, I like meeting people in real life. I don't like the internet. I grew up without it. I remembered the rotary phones and, you know, dial TVs is
like
way back.
The rotary. You had a rotary phone, really?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It was like, I remember my friends, we would prank call like 911 in the operator. We were badass little kids.
We used to call the Kinkos. We used to prank call Kinkos because they were 24/7.
Yeah.
And at one point, I remember we'd have sleepovers and we prank call Kinkos, and the guy was like, "Listen, guys, it's just me here. You know, can you just stop? Like, I don't really, you know, I got like a family. This isn't a great get." Like he like poured his heart out. We were like 12.
Aww.
And I remember being like, I'm like, so sorry. You know, I'm sorry. And then I think we did it like the next night.
Well, during a pandemic, a group of comedians and we had like a little comedy group that we would meet on Zoom and give each other little activities and assignments. And one of the things we had to do was, one of the challenges was do a prank phone call. So it was crazy because I'm like, I haven't done a prank phone call. I was nervous as shit. You know, I'm like, can I get in trouble? Like, so I ended up prank calling the liquor store by my house that was selling bottles of hand sanitizer at the time for like $20. a bottle, yeah, I was like, fuck you guys. So I
Yeah.
ended up pretending to be like a, you know, like a cam girl. And I was like, listen, I need enough to fill a children's size swimming pool. So I had these guys on the phone, like calculating how much hand sanitizer I would need to fill a kid size swimming pool, you know? And I was like, am I gonna get a discount on this? Because we had to record it and like share it with the group and everything. So it was like almost, you know, like they would do on like Crank Yankers or whatever. I
Yeah.
think what else? I think Opie and Anthony, did they do that shit too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at what, was there a point when you were on that call when you like kind of forgot you were in character and they're like, well, it's going to be like, you know, like $3,000. And you're like, well, I guess I'll put it on this credit card.
Oh, I got lucky.
Wait a minute. No.
Call the distributor. They're like, oh, we have to make sure he has enough bottles right now. Cause I was like, I need it right away. I'm going to come and get it today. So he's like, I'll call you back. So I was like, okay. And I gave him another number and I called from a Google Voice number. So it was like, you know, because like I said, I felt very nervous. I was like, how did I do this as a kid? Especially like 911. Like what?
I used to call 911 for fun. Now I can't even order a fake hand sanitizer as a cam girl.
I was so nervous. So I was like,
I would probably be the same way. I feel like I don't think I could crank call someone. I really don't. Knowing like just I don't even know what I would say. If I just like call the number from the book and I was like, "Who's your fridge running?" Like, is that what this would be?
You'd have to do something like, especially too, being that something. I feel like people are on edge lately. Like people are really tense. You would have to.
Oh, because of the whole pandemic.
Maybe I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like chill out, guys. Relax. So yeah, it'd have to be some, and I feel like things like that would be silly. Like if you could, it's, you know, like do something goofy and get the person, you know, like somehow on board.
How far did you take yours? I mean, it sounds like you took it pretty far.
5 minutes. It was pretty long. Like I thought I was going to be like 2 minutes, but like I said, when I was like able, like I said, because I asked for the manager and blah blah blah, and he gets on, and then like I said, as soon as I started getting him to calculate how much, I was like, oh, I got this guy. And he was like, oh, give me the calculator. And he was like, oh, and they were like, literally, they're like, oh, you're gonna need like 2,000 bottles. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, do you have that many? And that's how the whole thing distributor came. So
were they gonna give you a discount?
Yeah, they were. And I told them as well, I'm like, I'll make sure to mention the liquor store in the video. You guys will get free promotion. So stupid.
No, that's amazing. Did they actually like say pick up in like an hour and you're like, okay, I'll see you then?
No, they were going to call me back to make sure he had the bottles. So, you know what I mean? Like once, and like I said, that's where the call was like, okay, here's my number, call me back. So,
did they call?
I don't know. I gave him a fake number. I panicked. I was
okay.
like, call this number. You know, I didn't give him the Google Voice because I was like, at that point, like my anxiety level was like so high. Like, you know, like I need to abandon this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going.
That is incredible. Did you ever have a thought when you were doing it? Like what was the discount? Like maybe half off?
I think it was pretty significant because of the fact they were overcharging so much for the bottles.
Yeah.
So I think like, again, they were like $20 a bottle. I think they were going to give it to me like for something like $6 a bottle, you know, like it was like, because again, I was like so shocked because they were these little ass bottles. They were not like a gallon of hand sanitizer.
I mean, you really, if I can be direct for a moment, you kind of missed on a huge business opportunity because you literally could have set up a shop in front of the liquor store next to it, selling hand sanitizer for like $15. You would have cleaned up. Like, oh, they're charging 20? Oh, this is 15.
Shut them out of business. That's what you get. I don't know. I wouldn't want the liquor store mafia coming after me, busting my kneecaps.
Yeah, you really never know who runs those kind of places. God, that's amazing. So with this comedian group, do you still get together?
We have not. We stopped like once things opened up, you know, because it was something for like during the pandemic just to kind of keep us like engaged and doing things and creative. It was a lot of fun. It was super helpful. So, and they're great people. I love them all so much. They're my homies.
Are they local? Are they
They're all
national?
Jersey comics. Yeah, I all know
Okay.
them from Jersey. Yep.
Do you think there's a special like bond, like East Coast? Like, is there like an East Coast, like East Coast comedians are like a certain, maybe not everyone's the same way, but like, is there like an East Coast kind of like, we're East Coast comedians, like we deal with East Coast things? Because I'm in the Midwest, and there's nothing like that. Midwest is like, I don't know, do your bit on squirrels, like I don't really fucking care, you know.
I think maybe a little bit, like I like when I get to perform in Philly quite a bit. So it's like when I'm there, I always kind of like touch on like the regionalities, it's like, because Philly, it's like you're Pennsylvania, but you're Philly. So y'all are really more like Jersey and New York, you know what I mean? Y'all
Yeah.
are, yeah. So I don't know. I don't necessarily get that, especially too, because it's weird, like New York, you have Manhattan, then you have Brooklyn, which is a whole other scene into itself, there's so many people that have moved in. So you got a lot of like outside influence in, you know what I mean? So it's just, again, it's like a hodgepodge. I feel like comedy itself is a cool scene. Like, it's just like you meet comics. And I was in Atlanta in the end of October, the beginning of November. And I got to do some comedy and meet comedians down there. And it was so cool. It was just like, again, it's like an immediately like welcoming scene, like, hey, you're our people, So super fun.
What would be some advice you'd give, or advice you've gotten from the podcast about someone who, and we know these people, we might have been these people where they're like, oh, I'm funny, I could totally do stand up. And then they just like wake up the next day and go, oh, I'll look at open mics online. Oh, there's one over here. Oh, but I'm busy that day. And then they do that same cycle for months and maybe years on end. What was something that you would recommend to them?
Do it already. Stop being if you can say, like, first and foremost, if you're gonna fucking say, I can do that, because as someone who does comedy currently, I don't think I can do it. Okay, I get up on the microphone every time and I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna go well, but I have to do it. Okay, so stop fucking saying it and just do it already.
Why do you have to do it? Why do you have to do it?
Because if you want to do it, just do it. Pull the Band-Aid off. Like, life is short. If anything, the pandemic has taught us we will die. You're going to die. You only get one chance at this rodeo. So do what you can. Take advantage of the rides that are offered to you. Because when you're dead, you don't want to go and die with that on your brain. Like, oh, your last breath, I should have done comedy. Like, oh, how bad. How?
Yeah. Why didn't I do that bit about squirrels?
Exactly.
We met because of an online show.
Mm-hmm.
We roasted each other as Christmas characters.
Yeah.
You were savage. I didn't know what to do. You were Frosty the Snowman, or no, you were what? Frosty Bitch? Is that what your name was?
I was supposed to be Frosty the Snowman. Yeah.
You were savage.
I thought it was fun.
Oh yeah, I had a blast. I couldn't. I just didn't practice that character enough, and I couldn't figure out what it would be. And you would have some like good one-liners that were so mean. I just remember being like, I'm an avatar of a reindeer, and I probably didn't practice enough on this bit. So now I'm just gonna say whatever I had on the piece of paper next, which is kind of terrible.
It was a lot of fun. It was silly. It was super silly. And like I said, I liked that. Like, I loved because it was like, again, this, especially because I felt like once I was like, oh, this looks psychotic. So it was like, I was just like, I just felt like it played into everything. It was very silly. But that was also, like I said, I was happy you agreed to do the character roast, because I feel like I'm a pretty savage roaster.
Yes.
Growing up, again, as a middle-aged woman before the era of you can't bully people, it was like being a teenage girl in a locker room, man, oh shit, it's brutal. So I'm like, honey, I'm ready. I've been ready for roast battles my whole life.
Have you done them live?
Yeah, I love roast battles. Oh my gosh, they're so epic. I love doing. I did Halloween. We did a character roast. Not this year, last year. I was our Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I had to roast Fred Durst. So yeah, that was for Comedy Fight Club. I don't know if you know Comedy Fight Club. They are, oh, their roasts are vicious, and I love it.
Are they in person, online? Where are they?
They do. They post their videos online, but all their shows lately have been live.
Is it what city?
New York. They're in the. They do out of like the Stand. Now they have shows that they do out of there. Yeah, and then other places too. So, but definitely you should check them out. They're on like they post the battles on YouTube. But their roast, whew, like wow, it's like next level. Like, all right, it's very like not for snowflakes, so smart.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. What one of my favorite parts was, so I had to research. I didn't remember Frosty the Snowman. So I like the night before I watched like the whole 25-minute video from like 1969. Have you seen that?
I have probably years ago. I don't think I watched it in a very long time, so it's not fresh in my memory.
It's incredible. First off, everyone is white. There's not one, there's like not even nothing. There's nobody of color whatsoever. It's like the whitest thing you ever see. His best friend is a white girl named Karen. Literally follows her around. The plot of it is a magic hat falls on him and he becomes a magic hat from like an evil, I guess, magician falls on his head. And then like the magician chases him. And by the way, this little girl like goes with him to like the North Pole. Like talk about stranger danger being completely ignored.
Yes.
It's so weird. There was some other stuff that goes on too. Oh, that the very end of it is this guy's like, give me back my hat. And Santa's there. And Santa's like, no, like go away. And the guy's like, kind of like, well, F off, Santa. Like, what are you gonna do about it? This is like an adult. And Santa goes, well, if you don't leave, you're never getting a present again. And the guy's like, well, I like presents. And then he like doesn't like run away. He like hops away like a rabbit. Like none of it makes any sense. Like there's another part where was it like he's going after Frosty and Frosty's just like, get on my sled, and like just goes down a hill or something like that. It was really trippy. So I guess the whole point of is there a question here? Is maybe something you're wondering. What was it like doing Fred Durst research?
I did not realize he was so popular in Russia.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
Like still popular?
Yes, he's super popular now in Russia. Like yeah. So what else did I learn about Fred Durst? Because like Limp Bizkit alone, like, but this was the problem, I think, because a lot of people like Limp Bizkit. I don't know where you stand on, Fred Durst is a cultural icon to many of people. So I feel like, yeah, I think the cards were stacked against me in that roast battle by, because it was like a Fred Durst crowd, you know what I mean? Like they were like
Fred Durst crowd. What?
The Comedy Fight Club audience is like, to me, I felt like these guys probably grew up listening to Fred Durst.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you were Ruth Bader Ginsburg roasting Fred Durst.
Yes. And it was weird. It was such a trippy roast. It was super fun. But I remember like at one point, the guy roasting me had this joke about a ruling of RBG over like pipeline and like early 2000s or something. I don't even remember the joke, but it was something dealing with that, and everybody in the crowd went crazy, like, whoa, sick burn. And I'm like, meanwhile I'm like making jokes about his Limp Bizkit, It's like, what the fuck? It was so weird.
It's interesting the things people will laugh at.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's so fascinating.
Like, did you have a crowd of constitutional lawyers and you just didn't know it? And they're like, I remember that decision. It was very controversial in 2003. Oh my God, Scalia dissented. Oh man, you should have read what he said.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it would completely like boggled my mind and stuff. But again, like, yeah, you never know what will hit with people and stuff. And I find that particularly fascinating about doing comedy, is like noticing how certain jokes will resonate with certain people at certain times. And you're like, oh,
yeah. Like,
you
ever have one where you're like, people will just like, it's like, you're like, yeah, it's kind of funny. And then you do it and people go like nuts. You're like, huh, I wonder why that worked. And then you'll do something that like you really think is good. And you're like, this is going to slay. And then everyone's just kind of looking at you like, the fake, the comedian lab.
Yeah. Like, oh, people liked, we'll give you that.
Yeah. I'm trying to make this not awkward.
Yeah. But I feel like that's like, depending too, it's like, it goes back to like, just experimentation. Like sometimes you change the order of the joke or like the lead up or even how you say things or you don't pause.
Yeah.
Or you do like any little thing can change the whole, cadence of delivery. And then, so it's like, again, for me, it's like, I always like to try to kind of use those back to compare. Like, okay, if it hit this time and it didn't hit this time, I use that and I'll listen and be like, okay, well, what was going on? I feel like, again, it's helpful, like, because I'm like very much like, I like to have things to work towards. Like, that's why I think I told you how I took comedy classes and I loved it. I love taking it because I like taking classes. I like learning. So it's like having tasks to do and doing things in that way. For me, it's fun.
It's like you went to your classes like MBA classes. And then when you do comedy, it's like actually starting a business and you're like, oh, this is almost completely different from what I did. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me get you out of here on this. 2022 is coming up. Let me just check the date. It is. Okay, good.
Yep.
I have no sense of time anymore. It could be 2020. I don't know what's going on. What are some of the comedic goals you have for the next year?
I would like to submit to a festival this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I would love to, like I said, I love traveling and doing comedy. Like to combine it together sounds like heaven and would be such a blessing. So
do you do Jordanian open mics?
I would love to. Oh my gosh, that'd be so wonderful. Like, what's with the deal with all the sand, guys?
Would you like some paved roads over here?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure paved roads.
Okay. Thirsty much, guy? Because that's so fucked up because Jordan's running out of water. So
and then you just take a big swig of the water bottle.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, spit it.
Comedy festivals. How about the
comedy festivals? Keep the podcast. I want to do again. My goal. I mentioned this too. So when I started the podcast, I've been like kind of slow with getting it out there because part of it is a little bit of column A nervousness. It takes me a long time to feel comfortable to release stuff, and then also like just scheduling with being busy. So I really would like to be more frequent with releasing episodes. And in theory, again, just like being able to sit down with a person a week. That was my goal last year. It didn't happen, but that's okay. Like, it's like, all right, how many did I do? And let's see if I can keep doing it. Cause I didn't think, like, again, when I started it, I didn't think that it would go on this long. And, again, and I appreciate you for having listened to the episodes. Cause like I said, it's such a blessing that somebody has taken their time to listen to something. And I feel so grateful. It's such a wonderful feeling. So I'm so glad that I'm still doing it. And I'm excited to have you on as a guest.
Yes. I'd be happy to. I love to talk and be vulnerable. That's something I'm working on, is being a little more vulnerable again, because I've kind of found with the pandemic, I've kind of closed myself off a little bit. I didn't see that come, but your podcast, you ask good questions. You've got great stories. Like we talked offline. It's like, you've lived a life, you travel. Anyone who gets on that mic, I give the utmost credit for, because maybe I should save the content, right? But it's like, every time I get on that microphone, there's just a moment where I'm like gonna grab it and I'm like, I'm naked. I'm so naked right now. And then I look out, and I'm taking your tip on talking to the audience on the way up there. I've never done that. I've kind of been like all so in my head. But yeah, you get that mic, and I just always have this one moment of like, okay. Like my whole life flashes before my eyes, and I was like, you're really fucking doing this again, aren't you? And then I'm like, hey, yeah. So Deanna Kobe, Comedians Exposed. Thank you so much for coming on Laugh and Learn with Vern. We can find now, I know I said any podcast platform before. I think I lied. Are you exclusively on Overcast? Do I remember that?
I don't think so. I don't know what that is. I don't. I know.
Are you exclusively on this platform that I named that you have no idea what it is? Yes, Eric, that's correct. You did a great job researching before this interview.
Maybe
Thank
I
you.
am, and no, you could be right. I'm pretty technologically stupid, so I'm still like, I don't even know exactly where until I push the buttons that they tell me to push.
I understand. Well,
Yeah.
we'll find you either way. And in the meantime, if I don't talk to you, have a wonderful start to 2022.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.